Yep, there you go.
Are we live?
We're live.
We're live. Friday Night Flies. Your host with the most, Brad Knowles. We're at the Pemberton Fish Finder headquarters here at Spud Valley Sporting. It's 1380 Birch Street, downtown Pemberton. I'm going to try and fit as much plugs in here as I can. I'd like to say thank you to Dragonfly for making great products. We're going to be using a few things from Spirit River tonight. I'm going with a Spirit River theme. If you like their, if you like dubbins, you like schlappens, you like marabous, and good dye jobs, check them out. Spirit River, good stuff. Anyhow, tonight I'm tying the Cutthroat Schlappen Minnow, and it's not just the Schlappen Minnow. It's made with pink schlappen. So let's go down. We'll go down and have a look at this fly quick.
You ready to go
Once
down?
again, I'm Brad Knowles from Pemberton Fish Finder. I don't tie as much as my good friend there, Scotty Boulder, but I'm proficient, you might say. And I
You're
make
a lot of the inspiration as well.
I think like a fish. And as long as you think like a fish, typically you can make fish flies, things that they want to eat. And this little guy here, what inspired this little fly? It's looking pretty rough because it was just one of those things I slapped together. I mean, it's you could eliminate the marabou for the tail because like the tie that Scott had earlier today, if you take the bottom end of the schlappen, it's the same kind of stuff. But it's a little bit more sparse, a little bit more rigid. I like the flow to marabou myself. I'm familiar. I've been using that stuff for 20 years. Anyhow, this little pattern works really well. It was originated from another minnow pattern that I tie, and I might be able to tie it tonight if you guys stick around. But it's called the Moto Minnow. I've got another copy of it, but that's another fly, another time. This guy here, Cutthroat, last season, were eating the bejesus out of pink intruders. And, you know, Cutthroat typically range in the Pemberton area between 14 and 20 inches. So the Moto Minnow is actually a pretty, or the pink intruder is a big fly. And I wanted to try something a little bit smaller and get a few more lip sets. And, you know, occasionally with that trailing hook, as big as it is, you get them in the side of the face. I want to just get them in the lips. So we came up with this little pattern. It's got a little flash. It's got a little bit of body. It's got some flow to it. It's nice stuff. And I'm not going to waste much more of your time, and we're going to get at it. So what we're going to start with is a size 6 nymph hook. I usually use nymph hooks myself for streamers because, as you can see, it's got a bigger gap. You want to get structure when you're catching fish, especially when you're getting into cutthroat. Cutthroat or glorified steelhead. They're not as big as steelhead, but they're also sea run, and they fight like hell. Anyhow, we're using a 70 Ultra Thread in fluorescent pink. This fly doesn't usually take too long if you don't break your thread right off the hop. And I wasn't even pulling on that very hard. I think I might have a bad spool here.
While you're fixing that up, we'll let you know that we do have question and answers put on. So this is the time to chat in, talk to the big dog himself.
The big man. And I'm not one to spend a lot of money on bobbins, but as you can see, that's what happens when you don't spend a lot of money on bobbins. They tend to eat your line every once in a while, your thread. I think this bobbin only cost me $2.99.
I think that might have been missed.
Anyhow, so we're going to start off with a little chunk of marabou. Marabou, boom. I usually just take a little bit off the side. Get a nice little chunk about this. Match it up to the hook. You want to go about half the length past the hook. And you got all this overhang and stuff, but you'll see how we use it. You want to fill out the body. I'm not one to waste, so I usually follow it up, wrap her on the body, and break your thread again. Have you got a better bobbin? This thing is just chewing line.
$2.99 right there.
There you go. That's why you don't want to have a $2.99.
Go to your red or switch it right out.
You know what? I'll try it one more time. I've got another bobbin here, so I'm going to try it. Typically, you're not going to have to tie your bobbin 15.
Too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There might be something going on here. But anyhow, we'll tie it in there. Hopefully, we don't do this all night long. It always happens when you're live on television, YouTube. You can see how that filled the body. You could use that pattern just the way it is. It'll catch fish. But we're not going to do that. We're going to make it pretty, real pretty. At this point, you want to get yourself some pink Spirit River Lightning Dub fluorescent pink shrimp. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that okay? Oh, I got the wrong side. Anyhow, you saw the price. It was $2.99. This stuff is pretty. I'm going to take a little chunk of this stuff. You don't want to spend too much time doing it. I like spending time fishing more than I do tie flies, but when you got a good pattern, you want to tie them good patterns. Patterns that fish cannot resist. I always try to lock a little bit in there. This stuff is pretty sparse. Lock her in. Spin it to win it. At this point, lock it in, spin it to win it. Like, Brad, how do you dub bodies so damn good? Well, typically, when my line or my bobbin isn't busting my thread every 2 seconds, I'm pretty proficient. Take your schlappen, pull her back, tie her in from the tip. She's real pretty. Pretty like. Usually get rid of this little tag. You can leave it in there, but I can get rid of it. At this point, you know, one thing I didn't grab my whip finishing tool, and I'm almost at that point. So, got that guy anchored in. Whoa, and we got an earthquake. How are we doing? Are we okay there? A little higher?
A little higher.
Right there?
Yeah, that'll work.
All right, sorry guys.
Come on. Focus. We're good.
Take your slapping, and you want to slap this fly. Just like the trout. You're going to slap them around. Actually, you're not going to slap them around. You're going to handle them with care. And then you're going to release them when you caught them. So the next guy can enjoy it. But you're not going to go too crazy on the wraps. You usually go about 3 revolutions, depending on how thick your schlappen is. I mean, if you get rid of the tip stuff, sometimes you'll find that toward the bottom it's a little bit longer, it's a little bit more coarse. I prefer to look for the lighter feathers that are a little bit fuller at the tip, just because they're not as stiff and they get a little bit more flow. You'll find that works good.
And a nice thing too with that is if you're tying a bunch of them,
you can use
some sparse, do some a little heavier. They'll all fish a little different, and on different days, some will catch fish over the other.
It's crazy how one change on a bobbin can make that much difference. I'm probably going to break my thread one more time just because it is live.
Just because you said it.
Yeah, just because I said it now. But anyhow, you want to put a little bit of a collar on there, and we got our whip finishing tool. This isn't mine, but hopefully it works just as well as mine does. Whip finish this sucker. At this point, your fly is done.
On TV.
Typically, this fly would take me half the time, but at this point, I just got to grab one more thing here. We got these nifty little tools from my friend Scotty Holmes' daughter. He's one of the tires on Friday Night Flies. Velcro on a popsicle stick.
Cool beans.
You take it into the dubbin, rough that dubbin up. You can also pull that collar with a schlappen over, and it gets all the trap feathers out of it. But it also kind of roughs things up and makes it real purty like. Real purty. And there you have it. The Cutthroat Schlappen Minnow.
Looking good, man.
Yeah, let's have a quick look. I'll roll it over. It always looks better on my side. We'll get rid of that one feather because it's bugging me. There it is. Real pretty like. Anyhow, there you have it. We'll go back up top. Let's go back up top. We're waiting for you. There you are. Anyhow, my name is Brad Knowles. I'm a professional fisherman, not so professional on the fly time, but I enjoy it. And I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It's been working pretty darn good for me, and it'll work good for you. And on that note, we're done. Cut!